Hey everybody, it's a nation in isolation. It's a nation in isolation. It's a difficult situation. It's a nation in isolation. Now's not a good time for celebration. Feeling good, share the wealth, help other people with their mental health. It's a nation in isolation. Don't need fiberglass pink insulation. Yeah. Good advice there.
Yeah, there's just no way I can listen to that, and I can't move. There's no way I can't smile. It's so magnetic, and I always wanted to work on a show that had a theme song. And who knew that Sean Cullen would say, "Yeah, I'll do it for you." This is Isolation Nation, a show that is designed to talk in a candid, open way about mental health, and in a way that maybe you wouldn't hear places. Maybe you would never have heard, for instance, like yesterday, George Laraque talking about his childhood. Maybe you would never have heard 5 National Hockey League players besides George Laraque talking about taking their own lives. It's all about the candor. And lately, it's also been about talking about the racial struggle, because it's probably the biggest story of our time. Donovan Bailey is going to be our guest. He's watching right now. Donovan's my buddy. We wanted to show you 1996 in Atlanta, the 100-meter final, because, I mean, it's one of the, for me, as the sports fan, one of the best moments that I've ever had. But we, of course, can't show you that, because it's not like the IOC is going to go, yeah, you know what? We love you, Landsberg. It's a good show. Donovan Bailey's a great guy. So we had to do something else, which is what we had to do with Mark Tewksbury as well. So we couldn't show you Mark Tewksbury's gold medal in 1992. So we showed you this. Roll it, Phil.
We are 25 meters left. The men's 100-meter backstroke. It is between Rouse and Tewksbury. Here comes Mark Tewksbury. To the final 5 meters, Rouse and Tewksbury. It's gonna go to the wall, and on the wall, Tewksbury. He's done it. Olympic record.
Woohoo! 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 Woohoo!
Oh, that's
pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. Donovan Bailey, how you doing, man? How are you?
Well, I'm good. I'm surviving these crazy times, and I'm trying to make some inroads and hopefully get some changes to happen.
Well, we'll talk about anything that you want to talk about and stuff that I want to talk about, because it's just you and I. Because when you get Donovan Bailey, you don't need anything else. Not to suggest to other guests that have been on with 2 or 3 other people that we needed other guests. Okay, so we wanted to show you 1996 so we could celebrate it together. But because we can't do that, we found, like we did with Mark Tewksbury, the same thing. So this was pre-event for you. You had gone to the starting line. There were 3 false starts. I mean, I'm not telling you this, obviously, right. And then Linford Christie got. So this is that, our reconstruction of that with, he took his shirt off. I'm sure you remember as well. So this is kind of the way we thought it would sound if Siri was voicing it. And this is Don Whitman, was the original call from Don Whitman. And let's see what we got.
Linford Christie, you have been given the red card.
Reluctantly, he leaves Atlanta's Olympic Stadium and will not be able to defend his 1992 gold medal.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, not suggesting at all that Linford Christie acted like a baby. Not at all.
Oh, yeah, he's a big dude.
Oh, my God. Do you think he took off his shirt in that situation because he just wanted to show the world, look at me?
No, I mean, I think that was Linford's thing. And I think that, when we're all on the track and working out and you got 3% body fat, then being naked really wasn't, is not really a big deal. So, yeah, I mean, it wasn't, maybe it was hot. Maybe it was also hot.
Nah, he was
yeah,
just,
he had no problem taking his shirt off. And
he was just
I
going,
did. I neither have I. So that's not a big deal.
No, I knew that. I was coming there. Okay, so then there was the race. So you had to wait with 3 false starts and the Linford Christie mess. You had to wait 10 minutes. I timed it. 10 minutes and 10 seconds from the time you were first introduced to the time you actually got to race, which is a crazy amount of time. 3 false starts, a disqualification. And eventually you did get in the block. So again, we couldn't show you because, the IOC is not going to go, go ahead and do it. So we had to recreate something that maybe looked a little bit like your race, where, of course, it was really you and Addo Bolden by the time Christie had been thrown out. Take a look.
This time they do get away. Now it's Donovan Bailey trying to pick up runner. Donovan Bailey is putting on the surge. Addo Bolden in the lead. Here come Bailey, he's got it. 9.84 world record for Donovan Bailey and a gold medal.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I was,
That's so
those guys
good.
were both 90 years old. And actually, their time wasn't that bad. It was like 20 seconds. But just the
Was
way
that
the
for
one
60
guy
meters?
caught the other. What's that?
That was for 60 meters, I think. I don't think it was 100 meters.
Oh, that was 100 meters, man.
Was
that
it?
was 100 meters.
Oh, okay.
Wow, and maybe you're feeling like you're challenged because, a guy 90 years old, ran. If you round up or round down, maybe it was similar, but it was, that was such an amazing moment for so many of us. What was it like waiting that amount of time? And can you relive the feelings of what you had in Atlanta? I know you had the memories of it, and I'm going to go somewhere with this because, you answer the question, and then I'll tell you what I'm thinking.
I think that that 10 minutes felt like a month, if it were not for the great coaching of Dan Pfaff, my coach, I don't know what I would have done, because we actually practiced delays and false starts because we knew that because I was coming in and was so fast coming in, and Dan had expected me to break the world record. He thought that there was going to be a couple of people that were going to try and get flyers. It was very, very tough. But one of the things I kept thinking about was relax, get back in. It's kind of, Dan always said, relax, get back in the blocks, reload the spring so you can get out. So it was quite tough, but I kept my cool.
I asked you a second part of that question, which was, can you relive what it felt like? And I'm taking that to a place with mental health that is relevant to my life and anybody else who's been through something like depression. Not can you remember what happened, but can you remember what it felt like?
I don't know. I think that I don't know if I don't know even how to answer that, because I think that I was so much in the zone, and I was so looking forward to what it is I can do on the track, that whatever it felt like was like, especially today, I might be oblivious to it.
Yeah. So I asked you that question because there's a thing that I've learned living with depression and having some really, really horrible extended periods of time. And what I've learned is that the brain can remember thinking, oh yeah, like in 2008, I was in so much pain. Right. But you can't remember what the pain felt like. A woman gives birth to a child and the woman can remember, oh my God, that was so painful, but she can't feel the pain actually. And one of the things that happens to people with mental illness and something like depression is that you forget how bad it feels. And then when you experience it, it's like, oh my God, I had no idea. And even for me now, I've suffered for 20 years. I've been on medication for 10 years. I'm good, right? My worst days are a 4 out of 10. But when I have a bad day, like 4 out of 10, Donovan, it's this reminder to me how bad it is. And it's like, I forget these things. And I think that there is an important lesson there for a lot of people with mental health problems.
how do you? So how does medicine then help you balance this? I mean, because obviously you say four is a bad day. Or four is a good day. Four is a bad day.
Four is a bad day. So
Four is a
instead of
bad
living
day.
my life at a zero, which I did for like 2008 was the last time that I was like in really bad
Right.
shape. I was a zero for a year. And then I went on medication, back on medication. And now when I have a bad day, it's a 4. But here's the thing, when I have a good day, it's a 7. I can't get higher than a 7. So it's kind of like you go to the dentist and you know that what that dentist is going to do would freaking kill you. Right. So you get a shot, right, to dull the pain. So it dulls the pain, but when you go to have lunch afterwards, you can't enjoy your lunch the same way that you would because your mouth is still frozen. And it's kind of like medication for me does that to me. But it's a deal I'm willing to make, right?
Right. Well, that's so yes. I mean geez, that just sounds like that's a lot of sacrifice there. Let me ask you a question though, because I'm a glasses half full kind of guy. What would get you to a 10? Like I don't ever want to know that, someone that I know is at a 0. So I really couldn't, we certainly can discuss that if you want to, but what do you need to do? Because a good day shouldn't be a 7, man. It's beautiful outside. You live in a fantastic country. Life is great. We're both blessed. What would get you to a 10?
Nothing, because I don't have the ability to feel euphoria in my head. I can feel really good. I can feel happy. I can feel content. I can feel blessed. I can feel satisfied, but I can only go so far. So it's like your range goes from being this, like if you're really sick, you're a 0. But when you're that way, if you get better and you're not on medication, then you can go to a 10, right?
Right.
So I can't do that because I'm numbed to some extent. But you know what it's like, Donovan? It's like, and medication is so contentious. And
that's what I was going to ask me.
Yeah, there's so many people.
Question,
yeah, I'm loving this, man. Donovan Bailey, I've always thought you should be hosting a show. So here you go. It's contentious because it does change you. And it does prevent you from feeling the best. But is there an illness, a serious illness, that has medication that doesn't have side effects? For instance, no one would say, somebody with cancer who went through chemotherapy and had, maybe lost their hair and never got their hair back. They would never say, oh, well, I think I'm going to live to be 85, 90 years old, but I don't have my hair. It wasn't worth it. They would, of course, say, hey, it's worth it. So for me, it's worth it to give up on the upper part of potential of life and say, hey, I'm good with feeling really good, but not amazing, to get rid of the bad stuff.
Jeez, wow. I guess in the back of my mind, Michael, I'm still trying to figure out. So what gets you to a 10? Like a great meal, like with your family, friends, travel, a good sporting event? Like what's a 7? Because I'm like thinking, it's now my goal that me and Landsberg are going to hang out one day, and by God damn it, I'm going to get him over a 7, right? So what gets you? What is it that brings you to a 7?
I would say, because my 7 is what used to be my 10, right? Because it's like, that's the upper range.
Right.
And, I would say stuff that has to do with my family for sure, has stuff to do with my wife and my kids. And that is really the thing that makes me happiest. And I think, for me, it's always things that to others would seem are unremarkable, but for me, they feel remarkable. And to some extent, I've learned to value things that are not the biggest things on the planet more than I ever did in my life. A good meal. I have been a vegetarian for a year and I'm dying for a steak. Oh my God, I'm dying.
Are you serious? You've been a vegetarian? I didn't know that.
Just for a year, one night at dinner, I just said, I'm not going to have meat anymore. And I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. But, here we are a year later and it's like, oh God, I want a steak so badly.
But how sorry, listen, I mean, there's a couple of my friends have actually gravitated to the all vegan thing. What is that like, by the way?
The vegan thing I couldn't understand, but I'm going to tie this into now I'm speaking to Phil. Phil, can you grab the George LaRock tape from yesterday? Let me know when you have it. And this was George, George,
Yeah,
Georgie.
Yeah.
He was
George,
on the show yesterday with another former tough guy in the National Hockey League, Cam Jansen. And we were talking as you and I were talking. And I asked about suicide, which I'll ask you about, whether you've been affected by it in your life by people you care about. And George took it personally. I don't mean my question, but the answer for the question was personal, and it just floored us. Watch this and listen. Have you, over the course of your life, been affected by suicide?
I have thought about it, and when I was a kid, when I was playing minor hockey, because when I was playing minor hockey, I was getting called the N-word all the time. And the way my dad raised me, he beat me up a lot. So at home, I was getting beat up, and outside of home, I was getting called an. So I had no way of no refuge, no way that I could come down for anything. And that's how I grew. My childhood was tough. It was tough. I did thought about it a couple times. But my dream of playing the NHL was so big. That was my only way to prove people wrong, of calling me the N-word, that I couldn't quit. And when I read Jackie Robinson's autobiography, it helped me to pursue my dreams. But Mike, if I didn't read that book and I didn't have that dream to play in the NHL, who knows what I would have done when I was a kid.
Wow. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that was my reaction.
Oh man, that's very deep, Michael. That's so. I mean, I just feel so sad and so sorry. But what's really good about that? I mean, again, I always try to see, the light at the end of the tunnel was that he took the negativity of what people were criticizing him about, and the fact he was big and black and good looking and a great athlete, and turned that negative into a positive that drove him to the National Hockey League. And just another addition to that, I always speak about my parents and how important your parents are and your support system are. And when someone like George is saying, hey man, if you're getting beaten up every single place, you have nowhere to go but there. And the fact that you've ever got to a place where your only escape is to take your own life is destructive and devastating. I just think that's such a terrible place. I'm assuming that would be the worst place to be for any human being.
I would agree with that. And you and I were talking before we started the show today, and I asked you about mental health, and you have been free of mental illness over the course of your life, which makes me very happy. And I asked you about people that you care about, and you mentioned your mom and her Alzheimer's, and I mentioned to you my mom and her Alzheimer's, and we kind of lamented to each other that it's like unimaginably terrible. But then I asked you about suicide, and you mentioned somebody that you went to high school with, right?
Yeah, I mean that's those are two different different things. I mean, I think you and I definitely spoke about our moms, which is the most perfect female in the history of the world. For me personally, I mean, my mom is everything, and it was very hard not to be able to help her, and that crushed me when I saw her being crushed by a disease. But you know what? Like we both spoke about, the day that she went to heaven was probably a day that made me smile. You're not supposed to say that about someone you love in on this planet. The day she left for heaven was one of the happiest days of my life. But yeah, with suicide, it was different for me. I was young in high school. Just after high school, actually, and a guy who would friend, it took his life, and obviously I was young and dumb, probably didn't understand it, because when he took his own life, I think most of my friends and I, because we were all so tight, I mean, sports and music and school kind of connected us. So we always felt that we were the support system. I mean, still didn't know even to this day what the issues were, but the fact was that it created an incredible void for all of us, an incredible hole, especially when you're young. So, you know, that in itself is just another dimension where an incredible void's created where you don't really know how to fill it. So, you know, thank God we're young and we had each other, or we have each other still, because the guys, these are the same guys I hang out with today. So, and sometimes we talk about it and kind of still, well, I mean, I think as men, we understand it more now. And also as fathers, we all understand it more. And that's what keeps us probably closer to, you know, chatting and understanding and listening to our children.
You know, when you said that you didn't understand it, I would say to you, you weren't dumb, as you refer to yourself. I know you don't think you're dumb, but the fact that you couldn't understand it is perfectly logical. Because one of the things that we do with our charity, SickNotWeak, is that we try to tell people who've never been through something like depression that you can't understand it. But if you think you understand it because you think to yourself, okay, well, you know, I've had disappointing times in my life. This is what people would think. And, you know, there's been times when I didn't want to get out of bed. And there's been times when, you know, it took a lot to make me happy, but I didn't call it anything. I didn't go to a doctor. I didn't go on medication. I'm strong. And I heard this guy Landsberg speaking about it. He's weak, right? Because he had to do all of that. And my point is that I'm not insulted by that. My point is that if you haven't felt it, you can't understand it. And if you think you understand it, that's when you get into trouble, because people that you care about, if you think you understand their depression in particular, you start to offer advice, and almost always your advice is minimizing their problem. Hey, you know what? Go out for a nice walk, or, you know, hey, let's go to a movie, or, you know, suck it up, or toughen up, or whatever. So the fact that you didn't understand it, if you said you did understand it, I would have gone, you know, prove it, because you couldn't.
No, never. I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from. And I think that, you know, obviously in this day and age, especially what's going on in the world right now, we kind of recognize that with racism, it's probably, you know, obviously another layer, but that's probably the same thing. So it's, you know, so it's very important for you to have a conversation, and you and I are having a conversation now, and you're explaining and telling me something that I would have never known. And, you know, and like I said, this is why there's such detail or what's happening in the world right now, because it's very important, if someone is your friend, to engage, ask as many questions as possible, and then just shut up and listen, especially when you don't know.
That's exactly the advice that I was going to give. But since you're the host of this show today, it's good that you could give that advice out.
We're good, man. We're good.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned the times that we're in. And also, I just said to you, you could never understand what depression feels like unless you felt it. Well, I could never understand what it's like to be a Black person because I've never felt it. But if I told you, hey, Donovan, you know, I know what it's like to be discriminated against because of the color of my skin. Like, you would go, that's ridiculous, you know, and it's so arrogant to think that you could put yourself in my shoes and know what it feels like. And that's kind of where I take mental health to, which is you can't understand, nor should you be able to understand. Right. How tough has this time been for you, given the fact that I would say that right now, the issue of race relations in the biggest picture, not just policing, but in the biggest picture, systemic racism is the biggest thing that I think over the course of my lifetime that's ever existed.
Well, you know what? I tell you what's important these days is that, you know, this thing is happening. This discussion is taking place. And, you know, everyone's looking for answers, and everyone's trying to find out what is that they can do. And, you know, your people, we'll go with your people and my people, have gone through years and years of this, right? And have found a roadmap to get to the other side. And ultimately, that's, I think, where Black people should be, where, they're speaking and explaining exactly, what it is that they'd like to see, what it is that they'd like to feel coming out on the other side. Ultimately, I think that, when I speak, I 24 years ago, I was the fastest man in the world. I was the fastest man in history, and I happened to talk about racism in Canada and racism in America, and unfortunately, it became a hot button topic then. But what was even more terrible then was, I was blackballed. I was criticized, by our sporting body, by the media, because at that time, no one was willing to listen, much like you and I are talking about mental health or racism right now. And what I'm happy for, it took 24 years. I was quiet and I was patient. And those are two things that you probably don't, you don't affiliate with Donovan Bailey, but I was quiet and I was patient. And on the 24th year, we're having a conversation where people are talking about exactly what a solution should be when someone spoke. Because all I expected in Atlanta was to have a meeting with the head of the COC at the time, or Athletics Canada. I didn't have to have a meeting with the IOC or the IAAF. I mean, I knew those guys very well and had great connections and inroads with them. I just want to have a conversation with them, and for me to have a conversation where they asked me a bunch of questions, I listened, and I could tell them what it is that I'd gone through. More importantly, what it is that my teammates had gone through, or what is it my friends had gone through. Because coming from Oakville, my plight was definitely not the same as those guys, and I really was just trying to stand up for myself, and as well as my teammates, and also just the average man on the street. Just to get to a place where there could be a bigger and better understanding based upon the stage that I was in.
You talk about being Black and the need for change and being rejected when you pointed out, which something that is obvious to people, and probably was obvious to people 24 years ago. They just didn't want to admit it, because if you admit it, then you have to give something up. It's up to the white man, so to speak,
right,
to change the world, because it's the white man that has to give up his or her sense of privilege. Right. And that means, when you oppress people, in the United States, a quarter of your population, that means more money, more everything that's good for you and less for them. And I mean, that's why, in Canada, I never, ever think, okay, I don't want to pay the kind of taxes that we pay, because I think to some extent, not to suggest that we don't have issues in Canada, but to some extent, we're buying a little bit more equality than they have in the United States.
You're completely right. I mean, I think that living in the States for 15 plus years, you do understand disparity. Just medical help. I mean, the fact is that in Canada, you can, if anything goes wrong, you have the ability to go in and just get it checked out, man. And when I moved from Oakville to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and you can see the health issues. In my mind, you can see even right now with COVID-19, you can hear about how it's affecting the Black and brown people of America, and in Canada, we still have great support and great help. So yes, that these are all the divisive things that you do see, and also recognize that Canada is an amazing place.
We need to, you saw the video that we started with, obviously, and I saw a big smile on your face. Do you know Sean Cullen?
Yes, I met him a couple of times, yes.
Yeah, because I talked to him today, and he said, yeah, I know Donovan. In fact, I think he said he beat you in the 200 once. No, that wasn't him. But he did say that, hey, I got a little something for Donovan, so roll it, Phil.
Nice.
Donovan Bailey, wow, you amaze me. The way you you can run really fast in a straight line in a very short amount of time. Donovan Bailey, do you think that maybe one day we could be friends and you'd let me wear your gold medal? And you'd say, isn't that amazing? And then I'd try and steal it. But when I tried and steal your medal, you put the pedal to the metal. You'd catch me really quickly, you know, and then you'd kick my ass, and you'd kick it really fast. Donovan Bailey, Donovan Bailey.
I think that's
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
That is
Love you all.
That is awesome. That is that is great, man. That is great. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's he's pretty awesome. I'm a little concerned about Sean because he does something for us every day, like out of the goodness of his heart, right? You know, I mean, he's a top professional. God, if we had to pay, if he could send us a bill after the pandemic, he's done like 100 songs for us, and he could send us a bill. I didn't want to charge you at the time, but now I'm going to charge you. Be like, oh my God, you deserve every penny, but you're not getting every penny. But here's what I'm worried about. I think he cut his hair. I feel like he cut his hair, and you can't do that. You can't cut your own hair. You can't have somebody in your house cut your hair.
Oh, okay, fine. I thought you meant you can, but I mean, my hair is, I shave, it's the electric razor, boom, done. So yeah, I get to clean. I was scruffy a few weeks ago, but you do. And so Sean actually had someone come to his house?
I don't think so.
So he cut his own hair.
Yeah, I'm going to.
He looked pretty good. I mean, it's
he's a handsome man.
His hairstyle, he threw some gel in it. He was okay. I mean, that's, thank God. I mean, I'm a beautiful man with bald head. So, and I'm happy for that.
I think we're all happy about that, Donovan. Your beauty is one of the good things in our lives here in Canada. So 1996, Atlanta, okay, give me the look. Can you do the look?
I actually don't remember the look. That one? No, wait. That one. Yeah. Yes. That yes. Well, you can't really do the look because that's an icon. There's no look, Michael, because I turned the corner, and then it was like it was maybe an exhaling moment as I passed a bunch of Canadian flags. There's a bunch of Canadian. Yeah, because I looked at the time, and then I looked over to my right, and there's a whole bunch of Canadian flags there. So it's kind of like that sort of thing. But I couldn't say I had to actually breathe out.
It was, I mean, that picture is iconic, right? That picture, if you were to say, okay, what are a handful of iconic pictures? There's Bobby Orr, diving after he scored the goal to beat the St. Louis Blues. Obviously, there's, the Kawhi Leonard shot last year. Not the video replay, but the freeze of him squatting down and watching Joel Embiid looking back. And, for me, there's Donovan Bailey's, I'm going to give it a shot. Because you had your arms like, I freaking did it, man. I freaking did it.
That's exactly what I would look like if I ran at the Maccabee Games and I won the 100 meters.
You wouldn't win the 100 meters at the Maccabee Games because we Jewish people we're known to be, everyone says like in the NFL, like only the black guys are fast and the white guys are possession receivers. That's because Julian Edelman, Julian Edelman is Jewish. And man, that guy got pretty good speed, proving again that we are a fast people.
He's quick. Not fast.
No, you're right.
He's quick.
I just quickly went through the Rolodex of Jewish athletes in my head, and Julian Edelman came up.
Let me pull in one. Okay, good. No, he's a good football player, though.
He is a good football player. I know you're an NFL fan, if I remember correctly. How about the Raptors?
Am I a Raptors fan?
Like, what was that like for you last year? Because it's almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah, funny enough, I actually just did. I just sent just before you, I just sent a video out. Yeah, listen, I'm used to being on the other side of it, meaning that, in 1994, we won the gold medal in Victoria, 95, obviously 96, 97, even with the 150. So I'm always on the other side of it. So I don't really know. I don't get the fanboy out. And last year, man, it was awesome. Last year to just be sitting in a room with, it was me and a whole bunch of fellas, and we were down. I mean, I thought, I'm gonna go into the city. I'm gonna leave Oakville. I'm gonna go in the city, and we're gonna get some really good wine. We're at a friend of mine's place, and he put together some amazing food, some great steaks and stuff. And we watched the game, and I got the fanboy out, man. It was fantastic. And for a brief second, I thought we could. This was on King Street. A brief second, I thought I could get in the elevator and I could run outside to go and celebrate with the crowd. That didn't last too long because I realized that me being fanboy, there's a whole lot of people that looked at fanboy and they were also fans of myself. So, but I got to do something, Michael, that I never did before, and that was to cheer on a sport that I think is my favorite sport to watch, and probably the sport I love the most. I get to watch the city of Toronto being placed, the city of Toronto, and obviously Canada's basketball team become the best basketball team in the world. So I got to celebrate, and I think that's the probably one of the greatest moments I've ever shared with my friends. One of the things I want to add to, though, is that although this is a crazy pandemic affected basketball season, there's a lot of people that are sleeping on the Raptors this season. There's a lot of people. So I'm telling you that I'm extremely happy to celebrate 1 year, but there's a lot of people out there that are sleeping on the Raptors this year. I know Masai, and I know that him and Nick have put together an amazing squad. And because a few people are sleeping on them, I think there might be some surprises, man. I think there might be some surprises in 2020. So again, my money's on, I'm fanboying out still, and my money's on the Raptors.
Amen. So much fun last year. I think all of us became kids again for a short period of time.
Yes.
And I just, I mean, it was the best. It was truly amazing and special. And to have 3 million people at your parade, that was, the whole thing was crazy. Donovan, good to talk to you, man.
Anytime, Michael. You know me, man. We're boys. You already know.
We are. we are. And what did you learn today? Just quickly now, I don't want you to go through it all, but what did you learn today about mental health?
Well, the number one thing I learned about mental health, as I said to you before, it's the same thing as racism. I should ask a lot of questions, and I should just listen and be quiet.
Nice. Thanks, man. We got to show you again the 100 meters, your race from, well, it's not exactly your race, but the transcription is accurate. I transcribed it. My son cut the piece. This is Donovan Bailey, 1996, without having to pay $1 million for Olympic rights. Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.
Anytime, Michael. Take care, man. We'll chat.
Roll it, Phil.
This time they do get away. Now it's Donovan Bailey trying to pick up runner. Donovan Bailey is putting on the surge. Otto Bolden in the lead. Here come Bailey, he's got it. 984 world record for Donovan Bailey and the gold medal.